Window one box, take one.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
All right. So we are backstage, and you can see that it's all plywood is what it is. And this is what you would have seen at Paramount Studios in 1966 when they were filming the original series. You'll also notice, and hopefully it's bright enough, you can see signatures on the walls, and you'll see them all through wherever you have one of a backdrop like this. In every film, starting back from Farragut days, that filmed at whatever the studio was called at the time, signs one of these with the entire cast of whoever made that film. And actually, you just saw something, and if you look here, there's something called Breaking Barriers, and that is, it says Blessings, Nichelle Nichols. So we are very proud that she was here while we were here. But let's take a walk down this way, and you can see again, you know, we are behind the scenes. So here are the two doors that Larry was referencing. And what we're going to do is, just like in the original series, the director would yell doors, and the doors would open. And when the doors open, the actors would start doing their thing and moving up. So we're going to get ready to do that. Dan, I'm going to ask you to come pretty close to the doors. All right, I need to know if everybody who's watching is ready. I'm not hearing anything, so I'm going to assume.
Ready.
We're ready.
All right.
Ready.
So, okay, so then doors.
Oh my God.
Beautiful.
Back
So
home.
here you are on our starship. And as you can see, we have crew members aboard, and we're just watching everything go by. So what we're going to do is we're going to stop here for a second. We're going to talk a little bit about the construction and how this is laid out. It is in fact laid out just like Paramount Studios in 1966. The way this facility was constructed, Vic Mignogna got the blueprints from Paramount Studios, or not from Paramount, but they're all published online. And he scoped it out. He figured the distancing, and then took a can of spray paint. And what he would do is he would go around and he would say, okay, this wall is going to go here, and this wall is going to go here, and laid out everything the way that you would have seen it on set back then. A lot of our stuff are props that are actually movable. So for example, you see this here, nobody knows really what it does, but it's here. And let's say we were filming down at the other end of the corridor, and we needed something to take up space, we could say, okay, got it. Now, I always say this. I don't know if you want to look at that or if you can see that, but I will tell you what it is. Normally, I ask the question.
Very shady construction.
That's exact. It's just a lampshade. So, so that's what you see. A lot of this stuff was just constructed for the walls, not necessary to look like what was really in Star Trek, but to be close. So we'll come in here. This would have been Dr. McCoy's office, but because they didn't need to film a scene in McCoy's office, they didn't build a set. However, if we come this way, we are actually walking into sickbay. And of course, we have one of are you a doctor or a nurse? She is a doctor. I should know your name, but I don't.
Mary Rose.
Mary Rose? Nice to meet you, Mary Rose. So you can see how this was constructed, and it looks just like sickbay. Our medical scanners are static. That was all filled in with CGI when they were filming in here. So that would have been added in post. You'll notice here also that the fabric looks just like Star Trek, and you will see it in a number of places throughout our sets. They no longer make this fabric. This was and is just like the fabric that was used in the original series. What Vic did was he found a fabricator and showed them a picture of it, and they created a swatch. And he said, give me 100,000 yards or whatever he ordered. And so you're going to see them just like in the original series, on chairs, on wall plaques, on beds. So this looks just like it did in the original series. Just back here, we have some props that were used in other episodes. So this is a cryo tube that was used in an episode that housed an aging Kirk who was left behind on the Defiant, even though they didn't realize he was there. And so he was in cryo stasis, and they rescued him from here. That's a Mark II photon torpedo, which, at least in Star Trek II, was used to fire at Khan's ship. I don't think we ever used it here, but we have one.
That's the Romulan bridge wall that we.
I was just going to mention, exactly. And you'll see part of the Romulan bridge elsewhere, but that is part of the Romulan ship. And so we can film Romulans, and you probably did see in the trailers from Star Trek Continues that there is an episode that involves the Romulans. Thank you. And you are free to join us. So we're going to come out back into the corridor, and we are going to make a right. And we are going to go to transporter room. So welcome to the transporter.
And we have practical effects.
And we have practical effects. That's correct. I think Sam's going to do that for us in a second. But the effects are that the tubes wink in and out to simulate the transporter. Somebody would be standing on a pod. There we go. Somebody would be standing on a pod. Once the effect was done, we would freeze the background, and that person would walk out. And then the empty set would then go back to this pulsing, and then we would fix the beam out sequence in post-processing. And Ashley, I don't know if you have the Gene video, but maybe you can cue it up and let me know when you have it. But if you want to see what that actually looks like, we had a husband and wife come to the studio during one of our fan days, and he wanted to take a picture of himself in the transporter. And I said, well, if you're going to do that, let's try to make just a quick film of you maybe beaming out. So this is what we ended up coming up with.
Ready when you are.
Maybe. Ready when you are.
Transporter ready, Captain.
Energized.
So a little choppy there. That's not really the way it shows up, but that one was a little choppy. Let's just come around to the transporter console so you can see what that looks like. And of course, our transporter chief is trying to beam somebody over, but it's not happening. But this is our transporter pod. And so again, you could be here and you can, film scenes in any or all of the sets that are here. Before we move on, I usually tell people that are here live that this spot we're standing in is the most important spot on our set. Why is that? It's because behind the A-frame behind you are bathrooms, and the original Starship Enterprise did not have bathrooms. So welcome to our sets. Or we have, no, forget it. So we'll come back down to the corridor, And on the right is our briefing room. And this is Jim on the right, in full captain's regalia. If you watch any of our videos, certainly the Looking Glass, a lot of scenes were filmed here in the briefing room. You'll notice that, and we're not going to really show it, but you'll notice that they're just sitting on regular chairs. They're not sitting on the Burke chairs, which are the ones that you saw on the bridge. Why is that? Well, just like in the original series, they didn't have the budget to go out and buy 30 Burke chairs. So they bought a small number of chairs and they would move them wherever they need to be moved. So if we were filming here in the briefing room, which we have, we would take these chairs out and we would put those chairs in its place and it would look just like it should look. A lot of what you see here, these are all static pieces of equipment. These buttons don't move. They just don't move. You can't put a card in that slot because it's just a piece of tape. And these lights don't really go on. But if you're filming and the camera's up here and Kirk has happened to be standing here and he goes, Kirk to bridge, who's to say he's not pushing a button? Who's to say he's not putting a tape in the slot? Who's saying he's not seeing something? So a lot of this for you guys is Hollywood. This is really what they did in Hollywood. So all make believe, but it looks pretty cool on camera. We ready? Okay. We will exit the briefing room. And we will come on back out to our corridor, and you'll notice that our corridor is about 100 feet, and it does make that turn, so it looks like we are on a round starship. And so we are going to keep on walking, and we're going to go here, and we're going to go left. And on the left, we have auxiliary control. So for you guys who are familiar with the original series, we saw auxiliary control mostly in the Doomsday Machine. When Kirk and the landing party, or really, I guess, the boarding party, beamed over to the Constellation, the bridge was damaged and uninhabitable, as I recall them saying. So they needed to run the ship, and they ran the ship from auxiliary control. So you can sit here at the console, and again, chairs become movable. There's the video screen that Kirk saw the Constellation going out, or the Doomsday Machine going after the Enterprise, is what he saw from the Constellation. And it's all background. And again, if you look at some of the video that were shot here, this looks pretty cool. This looks pretty cool. If we make a turn here and come this way, what you'll see here, Dan mentioned that we had back, really we call them flats, they're walls, for the Romulan ship. And you may recognize this as the control panel right in the middle of the Romulan bridge. And it looks just like the one in the original series, and it plays just like one in the original series. So we've got a little bit of everything. This is a backdrop area. Really, we call it a swing set, so to speak. And this has been a courtroom. This has been a bar. This has been a lot of different things. It's been a guest quarters. So you can kind of manufacture anything you want within this section of aux control. You just redress the room a little bit, and it looks like you're someplace completely different.
We put black rubber tiles on the floor. We put curtains around it, and Doctor Who number 6 played a leader of a planet in here. This has been a bar, but what this design was, remember Charlie X and the guest room, and remember Captain Pike's original bedroom. This was part of that round room that they multi-used in the first season, and that's
pretty cool.
Built.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Even I didn't know that. I learned something new every day, everybody. So we will leave auxiliary control, and we will come into, and I'll step out of the way, captain's quarters. And here you have what looks to be just like the captain's quarters. Now, a couple of things about this in here, right? So most of this was decorated after Star Trek Continues. So the sec decorating is unique to our ship. And I should probably mention we are not the Enterprise, but we are the Constitution, pardon me. And the reason I felt that we should change the name was because the Enterprise belonged to a different crew. So we did not want to be the Enterprise. Plus, people would come in and say, captain's quarters or something, this isn't exactly right. Well, it's not the Enterprise, so forgive us. But this is the captain's quarters. That's the sleeping area. In the original series and also in Star Trek Continues, they set this up as Spock's quarters. And simply what they did was they took the desk, moved it on that side of the wall, took the bed, moved it on this side of the wall, and you had what looked like a completely different room. One last thing to show you, and this is something that was a carryover from the original series in 1966 from their set. So if you think about it, today we all run video and film from our cameras and a number of small film devices, right? Back in the days in 1966, cameras were and lights were, so you'd have the captain sitting here, the buzzer would ring, doors would open, and Spock would come in. And there'd be this great close-up of Spock at the doorway, right? Well, if the camera and the cameraman were here, you couldn't get that shot. And even on that side, you couldn't get that shot. So what they did was they put these in, just little conduits. And you'd put the camera mounted behind the wall. You take your shot, give it the distance it needed. When you were done, you would put this back up, and it looks like the original room. So now you two can be fun at parties. Dan, I'm just going to ask you to turn the camera around for a second. And like I said, you'll notice that this fabric, just like in the original series, has been used in multiple places. So here it is on the captain's bed, and there it is as a wall decoration. And there it is where we just were looking, it's on as a wall decoration. So this fabric has been used in many, many places. We come out of the captain's quarters, we're at the end of our hallway. And actually, Dan, I'm going to ask you to come here for a second. And if you were to turn the camera around, you can see what it looks like, and it looks like what you would expect to see on a starship. So we'll come this way, and this is our Jefferies tube. And this took a lot of effort and a lot of work, but this is our Jefferies tube. And you would recognize the Jefferies tube, again, maybe mostly from the Doomsday Machine, where Scotty had to run up in there and try to get the transporter working. And, you know, he did what he needed to do to get everything working. A little something that's a little bit of trivia here, right? A little bit of trivia is you'll notice up on the walls, on the pipes, there's actually different letters and numbering. In the original series in 1966, those were codes used by the set people. And if they worked on a particular area of a set, they would code it so they know that they worked on it. We don't know what they mean, but they would work on it. But up here in the upper left-hand corner, and I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but there are pipes throughout our sets and the original sets that are labeled as GNDN. The question is, and I know a lot of you know it because I usually ask this question, a lot of you know it, what does GNDN stand for? Well, GNDN stands for goes nowhere, does nothing. And that was a big joke of the guys who did it. And the reason it's called the Jefferies tube is most of what you see in Star Trek, the ships, the weapons, the sets, were developed by or designed by a gentleman by the name of Matt Jefferies. They needed something that they could do in the Doomsday Machine that Scotty could use to somehow, not from engineering, but be able to get engineering to work. So he built this, he designed this, and he built this. When it was done, they needed to call it something, and they didn't know what to call it. And somebody said to the other production people, well, it's Jefferies Tube.
Fan trivia here. One of the earliest fan films we did here had Matt Jefferies' niece, who was a nurse, play a character in the episode. So we had a Jefferies on board.
That's pretty cool.
Yes.
Pretty cool. All right, we're going to take a walk down this way. And you'll notice the A-frame. They are throughout, just like on the original series. But if we step forward, this is our shuttlecraft. And even though it really has not been used very often in the episodes or the fan films that have been filmed here, it looks pretty darn cool. Needs some work. It was actually sitting in a storage unit for a long time. Looks pretty good for what it is, but certain things need a little bit of reparation. So we'll be working on that. But this is our shuttlecraft. And again, it's been used in a couple of episodes that have been filmed here. We'll come back out. And we'll come back to where we were. And you can see the behind the scenes look at the sets. And you saw that that's our turbo lift at the end of the corridor. There's a tri-ladder on the left. And the tri-ladder was developed to make it look like there were more than one person at that set at that time. So while theirs went down through the floor and up through the ceiling, ours doesn't. But if you had 3 people walking up there, it looked like you had a very large crew going on. And on this side is our brig. And if I could do the special effects, I would, but you can't have a naval vessel without a brig. The lights you see, just like you would have seen in the original series, are Christmas lights. That's all they are. And some of the folks that have been here visiting took pictures of themselves and then would Photoshop in pictures of them touching this and stars going off or whatever. So it's actually pretty cool, pretty cool. We come back here, we're backstage again. And this is where we started. And we are back here on the bridge. And you can see that the bridge is now completely manned. And then maybe you would just want to do like a pan around. We're going to show them the front side of the stage as well. Perfect. So you can see how realistic things look. Now, if you face the front, you'll notice that there's no main view screen. And that's because they didn't really need it when they did continues. So we put up green screen so that we can film our actors from behind as if they're looking at the main view screen, and then CGI it in when it's done. And so here you have the main part of our set. We do have one more things to show you, and we're gonna just put on another video. Ashley, if you would do that, so we can then go to one last set that we would like you to see. But hopefully you like what you've seen. We want you to come out and visit us, but just stand by for a minute. Ashley, you okay?
Yes, I am ready when you are. I've got endo ready.
We're gonna do endo?
If that's the next video I have queued.
Okay, so for you guys who are watching, Endosymbiosis is the second film to be filmed here at the Neutral Zone and is in post-production still right now. And we will be finishing that and releasing that. But this is really the world premiere of Endosymbiosis. So Ashley, you can start it up. Can we put the light on, or?
I've ordered my engineer to push the ship's engines past breaking. We saw how devastating the device can be, so there is no other choice. We have to get to New Biscayne first. The Republic is a sturdy vessel. I just hope luck is ours.
Dropping out of warp, Captain. Proceeding at full sublight speed.
Distance cover.
Much too closer, only 900 kilometers.
Captain, inertia is pulling us forward.
Shields up, red alert. Burrow, what's happening?
We're being pulled toward the distortion and accelerating. We'll make contact in less than 2 minutes.
All hands, this is the captain. Brace for impact. Repeat, brace for impact.
Captain? Captain? Kabir, what's happening? Where is everyone?
Computer.
Working.
Okay, Captain Manning.
Captain Manning is no longer aboard the Congo.
Computer, locate First Officer Rampart.
First Officer Rampart is no longer aboard the Congo.
Computer, how many male crewmen are on board the Congo?
There are no male crewmen aboard the Congo.
I'd like to assume the science officer's console and do as many readings as I can in as short amount of time as possible. That may give us some indication as to what this anomaly is and perhaps tell us what happened to the rest of the crew. We stay for as long as we can. Dismissed. Reports? They're the same readings as when we first entered the anomaly.
Man, stellar cartography indicates this area of space is collapsing.
Commander, collapse is imminent. Time, maybe 3 minutes.
Kabir, if we don't get out of here, we never will.
Got to unmute Ray again.
Yeah, Ray, unmute yourself.
Am I unmuted?
You're fine now.
Okay. So we hope you enjoyed Endosymbiosis, our trailer. We hope to have that to you sooner than later, but it is taking a little time to do the post-processing. But we did want to show you a last set, and it was actually the last set that was built here at this studio. I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'm just going to give you the reveal, and then we can talk about it. So Dan, if you would come closer to the doors. And I will say doors. And folks, you are in engineering. A couple things about engineering. First of all, we are having some construction done here. So our warp core is backlit at the moment, but it would normally be a lot brighter and you would see a lot more. But our engineering section was built to emulate what you would have seen in the original series. We do have Scotty Station here on the left. We do have our second story on the left as well. The ladders that are here were constructed out of heavy metal. So they are climbable, as you can see. We don't always recommend it, but it does come in handy. The warp core is actually produced using something called force perspective. So you might look at that and think it's 20, 25, or 30 feet, maybe even longer. But in reality, that's only 12 feet. And the way it's constructed is the tubes get smaller and smaller as they go back. The lettering and numbering gets smaller and smaller as they go back. And you would think that it actually goes back a lot further than it does. I don't know if Dan, if you can aim that camera up, and if you can't, I certainly am. Can we see the ceiling?
No, I can't.
Okay. So our ceiling is actually made out of styrofoam. It looks just like the original series ship, but originally when it was starting to be constructed, they were starting to do it out of wood. And the problem was, Dan's got something going. Good. So they realized early on that if that ever fell, it would kill somebody. Royal Weaver, who again has been here since the very early days in St. Mary's, knew of a manufacturer in Jacksonville who could manufacture anything out of a 3D print in styrofoam. So they sent him the prints for this, and he constructed it. And if this were to come down, probably a couple of us could carry it out of here. It's very light.
I carried a piece up on scaffolding with one hand while climbing. They only weigh a few pounds. They're suspended by a rope, but now you can do a fight scene on the floor and shoot up and see the inner hull.
Exactly, exactly. This is all styrofoam, This, I'm not going to try to take it up, but that's our, oh, there we go. Yep, it's got no trilithium crystal in it, but that's our trilithium chamber. Couple of things. You'll notice that the stuff on the walls, those were also manufactured as well out of styrofoam and tried to look like the original series. Dan, I don't know if you can show this part of the wall, if that's viewable. But if you can, we have these items up here on the wall. So these are the trivia questions. I don't know if anybody there knows what that looks like. It's not what it is, but what it looks like. And some of you may not be old enough to know that, but a lot of what you see all around from when it was constructed in 1966 were the set people who, after filming was done for any series at Paramount, they would go dumpster diving. And they would look for stuff that looked pretty cool that they could paint, put up on a wall, and make it look like something futuristic. So these two pieces here, and there's a couple of others, if you're old enough to remember the IBM Selectric Typewriter, when you received it in a box, there were two pieces of styrofoam that held it in place to keep it from getting damaged. They found those pieces, they painted them, and they put them up on the wall, and they were recreated here. You may notice that snake-looking device coming out of the wall. For you guys watching, I don't know if you have any idea what it actually does, but the story is nobody knows what it does. It was in the original series. They decided to put it in because that's what was in engineering, but they never talked about it. They never used it. Nobody knows what it does. So, so this is our engineering section. Last section to be built. The area behind Dan actually used to be open for the crew to do filming, but that side of the building was sold, so it was partitioned off here, and the folks on the other side of the building now manufacture egg rolls. I wish I could say we had some samples, but we don't get them, but they are an egg roll manufacturing company. We're going to come here, Dan, because I don't know that we showed this, but you can see that this is Scotty's station. and it does light, and it does look like Scotty's station, especially there in the corner. So we've tried to emulate everything as it looked. Dilithium? I was just told that I said trilithium and it was dilithium. Thank you, Vic, wherever you are. And Ashley, if you want to queue up one more video.
Actually, I have a special appearance on our Zoom feed. SaraiTrek,
Okay.
a lot of y'all know, was in White Iris with Vic and all the other Star Trek Continues group, and several of her own videos itself.
Hey! Hey, everybody.
There she is. Hello, Sarai.
Hi. How you guys doing?
We're hot. but
Doing
we're
fine,
good.
doing fine.
Yeah.
We're good. So what brings you here? What brings you here today?
Well, my dad told me that everybody that you that I guess you guys are gonna ask me some questions, or
It's a virtual con.
oh,
It's a
sorry.
virtual con.
Yeah.
So we will leave it to you if you have anything you want to talk about. If not, I can certainly ask some questions.
Do you want
What's
to
your
talk
next-
about your when you film White Iris, or any of your
TNG?
other films that you?
Oh, The Next Generation. Can we talk about The Next Generation?
You can talk about anything you want.
Great story.
Wait. Well, honestly, I wanted to talk about my favorite episodes from The Next Generation. My first
Okay.
favorite,
Oh.
Remember the Law episode where Data, he creates his own daughter?
Data's daughter?
Yeah, that's like one of my favorite episodes because it's so cool how Lal, Data created her and he has no emotion whatsoever. So he gets emotion and he understands emotion, but he doesn't feel it. So it's amazing how Lal, she felt the emotion somehow. It's like such an extraordinary thing because she didn't want to be separated from basically her father. And that, honestly, that was just a beautiful scene because, you know, you could tell Data wanted to feel it, feel love and the
Can we
emotion
hook up
for
a
Lal,
power
but
wire
he just couldn't.
to run
So
power to that?
I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, the interesting thing about that, and I don't know how many of you watch, and I know that it always brings up an interesting response. But if you guys are familiar with Star Trek Discovery, and you know they did Picard as another offshoot series.
Yeah.
We haven't seen those episodes.
I don't think. I don't think we've seen those episodes. What?
We're just trying to get through TNG.
Yeah.
I know that you said at one fan event that you weren't into Star Trek The Next Generation, so it's kind of surprising to me to hear that you're actually starting to get into it now.
Yeah, my dad's he was curious about it, and just like how we started watching the first ever Star Trek, it you know, he started watching it and showed it to me, and I just grew love. I really love the characters and I love the show. And the same thing happened with The Next Generation. Some episodes they're not my favorite. But you can tell in like, I think it's the second and third season that Picard, you can tell like in the first season, he has that roughness where he doesn't really care and he's always following the rules. And that's what I think I didn't like about the new generation, is because Captain Kirk, to me, he was a better captain because, you know, he didn't care so much about the rules, but he cared about everybody else around him. He cared about his crew. You know, he mourned over if he lost a crew member. Picard, I didn't feel like he kind of just moved on with life and didn't mourn that much, you know. So I was just like, so that's why I wasn't too keen about it. But I have started to like it, but I do like the third series and the second series more than the first season because Picard was so rough almost. So. So yeah, that's.
What is your all-time favorite Star Trek film episode out of all the series?
Is it the Pizza Monster episode?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I'm like, I don't know. Honestly.
We remember. Do you like the Spock falling in love? Remember in the future, and he had to let the lady by herself. Remember that episode?
Oh yeah, that's a pretty good episode. There's so many episodes; it's so hard to choose. But I think one of my favorites is probably the Pizza Monster episode. I think that's pretty good. I can't remember what it's so funny because we've made like this whole name for that episode, and now I can't actually remember the real name for the episode.
Devil in the Dark.
My dad reminded me. He said, "I think it's Devil in the Dark." You guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know. But I think the Pizza Monster is one of my favorites. And
Are you sitting?
And now we gotta pair my earbuds.
What?
I was just going to ask you a question when you finish.
Oh yeah, I'm finished.
Are you sitting in a version of the captain's chair?
Oh yeah. It's like a childhood chair, and we made this so it has like it's missing a couple of buttons. This used to have like the little things that the captain pushed down and stuff. So those fell off because they were made out of like half baked clay. But it was just me and my dad started this thing in my room, and he made this chair out of just an old chair that we used to have, and it was like a little wood table and a wood chair that I didn't really use anymore. And he made the back.
The bottom.
Piece, and he got the wood. I don't know where we got the wood from. Huh?
A chair at work.
My dad got the wood from a chair at work. And then these are like just hot glue sticks painted. And then this is just clay and we painted it. And then gem. And then some more gems.
It's not
and
finding
then
them.
these have little. And then this was the button that the captain would push when he was going to speak to everybody. So he'd be like,
all right.
I can't remember saying that he would used to say. But yeah, that's kind of what that's
so very cool.
And it actually, when we had this chair, when it was in the originality, it had this little section underneath, so it has like little props and other lighting stuff in there.
I'm picking them up, boss.
Right underneath the chair. It was like a little box that you can set things in. So, yeah.
And I
so we have a question.
Oh, and
you have a question. One of our viewers wanted to know how old you are and what's new since I guess you filmed White Iris.
I didn't get that last part. I got the how old I am.
And what's new?
Oh, and what's new? Oh, okay. Well, I'm 11 years old, and we started this thing I think about when I was 6, maybe. And then I slowly started. I started growing, and then we still kept on doing series. We don't do as much now, but we still remind our fans and stuff about what we're doing. But right now, honestly, me and my dad, we like doing episodes with Rari. Rari, can you come on set, please?
I didn't think we were going to say my name.
Oh yeah.
Are you telling them about Captain Courageous?
No, we're telling them about Rari.
Rory, that's me. Oh yes, I am Rory.
And we also do videos with Corey, but
he's bad.
He's bad. We got Corey for a companion for Rory, but
he's my nemesis.
Yeah, it didn't work out. But we still, but Corey is not going to come on set because he frankly does not have a shirt. So yes, but also we've been doing Kid Courageous because when I was little, that was like my dream to have, right? Rory?
Yes, we have some more episodes you have to edit.
Yeah, we do. We do have some episodes that we have to edit, so that will be coming out soon. And yeah, that's basically what we've been doing. So.
Oopsie daisy, where to go? Come
So
on.
there's some people asking if you're planning on doing films like SaraiTrek.
Oh, more SaraiTrek? I mean, it will definitely it will definitely be different because I'm a lot older and we'll need to get a bigger chair, and I might be standing up too. I don't know, but yeah, we'll probably do more SaraiTrek.
Maybe what about doing a TNG episode? Like, Next Generation.
Oh yeah.
No.
That would be cool.
Yeah, I think you would like to see some of those SaraiTrek episodes.
Yeah.
You're older now and all that stuff.
Yeah, and Rory would definitely be a part of it.
What? I will?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to do that.
And Corey might make some appearances.
No, not Corey.
Yeah, Corey.
He's bad. He's like
handling the show.
It's the perfect cosplay for him.
Ooh, Corey is going to be a Khan cosplayer. I'm going to go tell him.
Okay. Well, while Corey's off going, sorry, Rory. While Rory's going to tell Corey about what his cosplay is going to be, do we have any more questions?
What sort of prep do you have to do for your show for writing a script when it goes to like a set or a location? Or working with other students?
Normally, if we're doing Kid Courageous, normally we're at Hunting Island and we'll use our friends that go with us at Hunting Island, but this year we're probably going to have to do it in our backyard somewhere or at a park because of, the whole virus thing. But that's normally how we would prep for it, and my dad, he would help make the script, and then he would say the line, and then we would just do the lines, not really for the actual part where we're gonna say it, but then after that we would do a voiceover. And for our friends, we probably, because they're kind of far away and we all come to that place, but for my friends, we would do the voiceover right then and there after the shoot. So yeah, that's what would happen for Kid Courageous. But for SaraiTrek, normally I'll put on
you can hear what
a little bit of powder so I don't look like I'm sweating, because we do it in the shop a lot and it's summer and it gets hot. So yeah, my dad won't use his phone or his camera like we used to do, and we'll come up the script together because it's kind of like what I would say in my words. So we'll come up with the script together, and he'll help me find my words and what I actually like. If I can't say, if I can't find a word for like, oh my goodness, I love this so much, but I don't want to say, oh my goodness, I love this so much, he'll help me find a different word for that, like spectacular or something. So, yeah, that's normally how we do it. Did that answer your question?
So it looks like the back from Ray. Does anyone else have any more questions for Sarai?
Nope. Thank you, Sarai.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Bye.
I'll see ya.
Have a great day or evening.
Thanks for joining us.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, well, we run our standby camera. It is very hot here in the studio, so my camera's been running out of power and just overheating and shutting itself down. So we will see how that does, but we're on backup at the moment. So I did hear a lot of what went on, and I want to thank Surai for joining us. And Larry, thank you for filling in for Johnny. So I appreciate that. So of the folks that are with us still, does anybody have any additional questions?
I know someone was
think we're
asking
good.
in the Facebook chat, is there any plans to possibly do a fan event in the fall?
Yes, there's very much. So I did answer your question similar to that early on. And really a lot of it depends on what happens with COVID and, you know, freeing up, you know, group gatherings and things like that. Aside from the fact that the heat is prohibitive to have us have people here in the studio, it just makes it very uncomfortable. Once we all kind of get the green light that we can all, you know, sort of get back together, then yes, we would definitely want to be able to bring people back here again, because that's why we're here. There's no other reason that we're here.
Well, I got a question, Ray. What have you most enjoyed in the years that you have been part of this and keeping this place alive?
I have a couple of different answers for that, Dan, and it depends on the mindset I was in at the time. So certainly, I think the most outstanding memory I have is when we opened this up for the first time, and I guess it was fall of 2018. I remember being, you know, inside. I hadn't seen who was standing outside. People were waiting outside to come in. And Vic was here. We were having, you know, sort of we had a big announcement. And I walked outside and there had to be, and I don't know, hundreds of people waiting to come in. And I was just floored. I was just floored. In fact, I know that there's still a video on Neutral Zone Facebook page that has that opening sequence, Vic and I outside and Vic talking to the crowd. It's definitely worth watching, but that to me is the most outstanding memory I have, if you will, of being here. I think filming here in many different ways. We did a film in January of 19, which I was a complete novice of. And I'll tell you that was a film that was not done to be released. That was a private film that was being done as a birthday video, believe it or not. And I looked at it and I said, I can't believe I was associated with anything like that. Special effects, the music, the filming, the acting, was just great. It was just great. And I have to say the third thing is, boy, knowing I could come here anytime. And I walk around here and I don't know, it's crazy. It's just crazy. It's a starship. And you can't find that in too many places. And you know, I can sort of walk in here anytime I want. Certainly, you know, cooler weather would be nice, but yeah, I would say that's also one of my favorite things about being here on set.